success with that.
So you're saying they just hit the switch?
Yes.
Good. Let's have a look at the vetoes. Let's get into this match. Let's get into the nitty-gritties, the micros, the macros. I think yesterday was not the start we were hoping for from Wildcard. So this time, we are going to go back to Consulate.
We are.
I'm happy, in all honesty. That was where they saw the most success. They are coming up against a very good team, Raven.
They are. And I mean, like, Elevate have had success on Consulate in the past. They've also had some troubles. But this is going to be fresh for Elevate in terms of match preparation. They saw Wildcard play this last night, and when you've got the new roster, it could go two ways. When you've had to rejig things, it's either a lot is very different very often. So like I was saying before, they could play really freely and really loose. That can be unpredictable. But on the other hand, you don't have as much developed. So you can become very predictable because you don't really have that like leg room to play around.
One thing that we were, again, talking... I hate saying that. One thing. But there is one particular part of the veto that we were talking about yesterday. That's obviously Theme Park coming in, now being a mainstay in the veto process, in the competitive map pool. We're talking about the fact that it's interesting to see the way two different teams will kind of approach a newer map, especially something like Theme Park, where, you know, it's not exactly seen banned out in the first couple of phases. And you were alluding to the fact that that obviously means that you can ban out your lesser played maps.
Yeah, you can try and bait it out. So if you are comfortable to not ban it, then you try and get your opponent to ban it. And it was one of the last maps banned in Elevate. It was their last veto. I have to say, maybe they were comfortable playing on Theme Park, but at the end of the day, it was probably a good decision to ban that, because with it being a new map, it could favor like a really loose, unstructured playstyle.
Yeah.
Because you're not really sure what exactly to counter. It hasn't been as developed. So that can favor just absolute lack of structure.
And it was one thing as well, TBD talking yesterday about the fact that they almost predicted, well, they didn't just almost, they actually predicted how that veto was going to go, and they said it's exactly what we wanted. They didn't exactly play into their hand per se, but it made them feel a lot more comfortable. And I guess it can be something that a team like Wildcard, who have two fresh players, if they're just going to go back to what they know, right, you can kind of manipulate that a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And just the whole idea of like predicting the veto or controlling the veto, you could call it, is a great way to start your night. It's you're trying to chain together positive mindset things. And when you're able to predict that and prepare for that, that's the first step. That feels really good, knowing that you read into your opponents and how the veto would play out. You've prepped the right maps and you're ready for every scenario based on that instance. That's a great way to start your night.
Well, that's, to be honest, they're going to have to start, Wildcard in particular, are going to have to start their night a little bit better because, well, it's not even the fact that they're still in the running for the top 3 placings. This is, again, very much a journey of trying to build this team, not from scratch, but almost from scratch. And if you'd watched last night, you would understand what we're talking about. However, we have not seen Elevate in their current state after this second half, after that break. What do we think we're expecting? Do you think that Elevate are literally just going to keep the exact same things we were seeing from the first half of the season, or has this time kind of shaken a lot of the Pro League up? Are they looking at something different maybe?
I don't think we'll see massive changes from Elevate, because it's one player, again, that can not make the biggest of changes, but also they've done well picking up Worthy to replace Geo. I mean, an iconic role that Geo had been playing was a lot of Buck. And that's actually something that Worthy has also been playing a lot of when he was on Kenga. So he can fall into a Buck role really comfortably. That means they don't have to rejig that kind of role. Where it really comes down to it is the small nuances that you don't realize each player has their own style of. Some things like that can create those adjustments, and they've had some time to work with it now. And I think because the role isn't that different, they've had that time, it's only one player. I'm feeling like Elevate won't be as affected as a team like Wildcard.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I know I'm going to ask this question, and it's just stock standard. Who have you got? Consulate, Wildcard, or Elevate?
I'm going to go towards Elevate a lot because of how Wildcard played last night. And then also knowing their mindset going forward about being a rebuild phase, just trying to do what they can, learn from it, build, and just move forward in a slow pace. I think Elevate are out for blood right now. They're eyeing a top 2 spot. I think that's just going to end up running over Wildcard in the end.
I can totally see where you're coming from, but can you at home? That's the real question. Let's have a look at the community poll. We are going to see it skewed toward Wildcard, but that's probably Still not doing justice to Elevate and giving too much justice to Wildcard, considering performances. That's what I need to reiterate, not history, because, you know, I guess a lot of people don't know the Elevate roster if they weren't following Oddity and Nixian, of course. So, yeah, how are you feeling about that? They have predicted against you, my friend.
I mean, it's one of the more even community polls that we've seen for quite a while.
That is true.
But again, I think a lot of this will come down to that recognition. Wildcard have been at international events very recently. Only a month ago were they in Montreal for the 6th Invitational.
Yep.
So a lot of people are going to see that poll and just click for that name. And even with Elevate, some people might not have been up with who the Elevate roster is at the moment. And Elevate did have a Latin American team previously. They had been doing okay, but they hadn't had the best results.
Yep.
And so some people might look at that and think, oh, Wildcard's definitely stronger than that team. But
imagine
it's not really where it is. Or that would be terrible. Yeah, that would not be great.
No, it would not. But I'll tell you what will be great. This matchup, Wildcard, Elevate, it is to kickstart the campaign of the second half of Pro League for Elevate. Whereas Wildcard, well, they need to show up. They need to show us what they're worth, and whether it's worth investing all of our time and effort into supporting them. And it can start here, but maybe it starts at the end of this season.
Maybe it does, and we'll see what they pull out tonight. They're pulling out a Capital ban. I believe that was what they banned last night as well against TBD. Something that they just don't want to be dealing with. He can be great for area denial using the asphyxiation bolts to ensure your opponents can't move within a certain area in that certain time. The Nomad ban as well proved very strong last night. Lots of runouts from Itby style on TBD, thanks to the fact there was no dedicated flank watch utility like Nomad's air jabs.
Valk taken off. Believe we saw Valk pretty much left through on every occasion and not actually played to the fullest extent yesterday.
Yeah,
so
true.
Now we're not even going to get a chance to see that. And Echo to be the last remaining. It is a stock standard here in the Rainbow 16. So round number 1. This is for us to determine, have Wildcard put that last match behind them? Are they going to continue on this trend of, I hate to say it, a downward trajectory?
Yeah, and I think it's also good to mention that Wildcard, at this stage, if they were to win both maps tonight, they still can't jump Elevate in the standings due to the fact that they were unable to really secure more than 1 point last night. And that's a bit of a big deal, and I think that puts some pressure off of Elevate. There's not as much onus on them being like, we have to win both of these maps, or at least get a map and a draw to come out in their head-to-head, because it seems like it might be unlikely they're going to end up finishing in the same area.
It's more the game of spoils, isn't it? So, Elevate with quite a lot on the line right now. That does not need to be reiterated any more than what it has been. And Wildcard by no means a sloucher.
10 seconds
And
left before
you would
insertion.
be very wrong if you underestimate this squad and what they're
5 seconds
capable
left.
of. We've seen Ethan, we've seen Diesel, we've seen Emorin on this team
Attackers are moving out to
destroy,
locate a bomb and
dismantle the ANZ region. But with the additions of Gio and Pat, we are still waiting to see what this team's final form will be.
We are, and of course you can't discount the fact that Wildcard are very experienced besides their new players, but to have 3 experienced players like that, considering they've had that international exposure, very, very helpful in big situations like an official like this. I want to point out Vast is actually the one on the buck roll, so I was wrong. Worthy hasn't reprised the role that Gio had been following up, so there have been some changes there with how that's going to play out. The rest seems to be exactly how I remember it, with Red on that support on the Thatcher, God Legion playing the Flex Fragger on Zofia, and then Digital playing a pretty hard support there on Hard Breach.
Opening that long line already. Wildcard just need to be cautious. Come the flashbangs, but have no fear. Jaeger is here. Will be all 3 used to flush out the one position of an EDS. And now Vast will continue making renovations. Some rotate holes for the remainder of Elevate. Whether they continue to push this singular area on the map across toward admin or not, it's yet to be seen.
Saw Diesel playing this position very heavily last night as well. Cutie was the one tasked with trying to push him out of that, and it looks like it's God Legion that's going to be contesting here on the Zofia, trying to get him to push out of meeting, as it's a very critical control point. Elevate have been very good with time management so far. They got into admin with very little time taken off the clock, which has allowed them to be set up and have some good map control. Set their flank watch as well. All those drones moving around down Visa and Statue to try and catch that flank. Ethan is the player playing down there, so they will have to be cautious.
Interesting now that Diesel's going to get a little bit more aggressive. Obviously doesn't have the cover the desk anymore. Is this nade light coming from Vast? Nope, not going to happen. Not today. They go again. Attempt number 2. And, well, that's going to be squandered, my friends.
Yeah, those were my magnets coming in big there from Pat. Nice placement. He does take out Worthy, but it's a nice refrag or trade from God Legion, making a 4-4. And that's a nice peek to flush Diesel out of that position. Will now enable Elevate to have a better chance to get this plant down, and they will have to start thinking about that, considering we are into the final 30 seconds. Red is on the balcony with the diffuser. He's got God Legion with him, and Ethan finds that frag, so that's going to make it a bit trickier.
Certainly is. In fact, it's going to make it impossible.
Jeez.
Wildcard will be able to take that first round. You would have to say convincingly. 3 players left alive, and Elevate never really tested them in that final 30 seconds, but it was still tooth and nail up until.
Yeah, I think an issue for Elevate there was they never dealt with the players playing the long angles. That's the one in Connector and the one in around the private bathroom area, playing that long angle through the meeting wall. It just meant that even though they cleared out meeting and they had good control on the admin side, once they tried to get that execute off, there was just too many angles for them to contest, and it's difficult to contest those angles as you enter. So whether they were to use smokes or actually get somebody to rappel on connector or private window to try and deal with that might be something they consider next time. But it means Wildcard can change bomb site. They're going to go down to the basement.
Hopefully for similar success for Wildcard's sake. I think yesterday they might not have had the most success on the basement. 1 failed attempt and 1 successful attempt. Diesel, who obviously is well known for a lot of the work that he has done for Wildcard leading up to and even into this season. Always been a very consistent player that Wildcard have looked to. And so too with Ethan. Both of those players obviously being the more vocal of the squad for the vast majority. And Imorin, well, who could deny that keyboard?
The Windows Microsoft keyboard, the old
Never seen
brain.
anything like it in all of my years.
Yeah, it's a bit of a relic. What I'm finding interesting from Wildcard is they have chosen a mirror, and even though she's banned a lot and she is finally available here, some teams really just don't pick her that much because they're not really building strats around the mirror. Had to get a nice 3k in that previous round, and now he's going to be able to use the Vector. I'm curious where they set up the secondary mirror. We saw the first one, kind of the mainstay default there in the little security room to face towards garage. Well, haven't seen exactly where the second one is, whether it's public bathroom or whether he might be using it late round.
Soon enough, you'll find out. Elevate haven't really tested Wildcard as of yet. More poking and prodding. That earlier drone phasing, obviously, giving them a lot of room to move on that top floor, knowing full well that it is clear. They will continue to do so as well. And buying a lot of time here. 3 players on drones right now. Elevate are not shy in doing so. So much information.
What's really important for them is just to be aware of exactly where these Wildcard players are playing, because especially someone like Ethan is very well known for being a bit slippery and hard to track and trying to go for flanks. You want to be able to stay on top of that. That is where that secondary mirror is on the public bathroom there. Didn't see that in the fly-through. That's going to assist Ethan playing in that position in the bathroom. Hatch is open, so he can drop safely down to site, and that means that Elevate will have some vertical control they can now use to open up the garage wall if they wish so.
Setting themselves up for success. It's been the early to middle round that they've done the majority of the droning, the majority of the pushing back for Wildcard's defense, and the small position being held, obviously, from Ethan. taking their time even more so. This round feels like it's gone for a very long time.
Yeah, and it's been very methodical. I'm not going to say slow because they have achieved a lot. They've got map control, they've flushed out that roamer, they're dealing with this utility, and they're going to give themselves some time to start getting a plant down. But Wildcard are still all up, full HP. It means that in this execute, it's going to have to be some kind of frag fest, or Elevate are going to have to be very, very good at cutting the rush angles that would deny the plant.
Extremely explosive. Those Havana pellets obviously only opening up a small size. Emorin taking down Worthy. That's the Ash. A lot of the firepower now taken out. God Legion manages to find Emorin as Red actually goes deep for that plan. I don't know whether Pat's going to be able to deny that. The C4 comes over the top. He's going to try to chase it, but the lines are being held from Elevate. Very nice. Geo left in a very awkward position to try and deal with this. Ethan coming in on the flank as well, but is he going to be too little too late? No, it's actually Geo continuing to hold down these lines. And Digital, Red, up close and personal. You can't miss when the barrel's in the stomach. Ethan with 20 seconds left on this clock. I don't know whether he's got the means to find. In fact, he's got exactly the means to find. He's going to be able to at least drop one into the 1v1, but the time, Raven, the time is tucked too far. There is surely no chance. And with that, he's just going to go for the kill. Try to find something in it. What a round from Elevate.
Really well done from them, and it was great angle covering from, it must have been vertical position there, where Red planted deep. There was that rotate hole. Pat knew where he was. That C4 missed the mark. He peeked and pre-fired, and no longer than half a second of him appearing in that rotate hole, he was taken out. So really well played from Elevate to cover that plant position. Being deeper, it's a bit trickier. It was a bold move, and it's worked out for them. And now Wildcard will have to try lobby press room, actually bucking the trend they had last night of repeating failed bomb sites.
So maybe, I'm not going to say it's an indication of what's going on here, but maybe Wildcard are starting to, with each match, they'll slowly but surely figure out how they're going to play as a team. 40% of your players being replaced is no small feat at all. Obviously, still the core. You still have what you would call the callers, if that makes sense, and you still have your coaches that are still in place from the original roster. So there's a good structure behind this team. Now it's about finding the ways that they are going to be playing and how they're going to perform in doing such.
Attackers have located a bomb.
Saw some success from this bomb site last night as well in the matches played with Wildcard. So again, come down to how Elevate have reviewed that footage and what they decide to hard counter. And this is maybe something that's also a common misconception about counter-stratting. You don't always look at exact defense setups, like exactly every reinforcement, gadget placement. You don't always plan a hard counter for that. You look at like the philosophy or how they're defending, because you can always move reinforcements around and still keep the same kind of philosophy of how you're defending. So that's more what your counter-stratting is like, the pattern of that defense.
Interesting. It's coming from a coach that obviously you know full well what you're actually looking for, how you do counter, and I mean, for those of you at home, it's definitely a good note to take away. One of the better minds in ANZ with me.
Oh, thanks, bro. It's so wholesome of you.
Of course. Come on, Batman.
We can't kiss on broadcast. Rob, what are you doing? Yes, I can't believe you've done this.
Only a minute in, and I think this is going to be a very slow attacking side with Elevate. From everything we've seen so far, they're more than happy to use the full 3 minutes in the attacking phase to find the further roamers, kind of tricky, sneaky little plays, but this could be dangerous actually. Geo watching the line, and I don't know whether Elevate are going to push into it yet. If there's one team that won't, it is Elevate, so let's wait and see.
I like the change of Worthy going on to the IQ as well. He was Ash for the first couple of rounds, and he had very little impact. Didn't even notice too much of his utility use being that helpful. That's a nice run out, though, to take the buck off. That's Ethan. Again, a bit slippery. You've got to keep an eye on where Ethan is at all times.
It's a very fair point.
My favorite part.
Ethan has now given Wildcard a little bit more room to breathe, maybe capitalizing on the fact that they know the way that Elevate are playing now. It is slower, it is more methodical. Going to be able to see the gun barrel, but Worthy now stuck between a rock and a hard place. In fact, does very well to get out of it. Pat and Diesel, that's exactly what you want to see mid-round. And it's all left up to Worthy and God Legion now.
Yeah, and it doesn't look too good for Elevate here. There was a nice refrag, or not actually, kind of a trade there on that top floor, but God Legion is left in a 1 versus 4. He does have a minute to play with here. Bait's the one out of the bottom spiral stairs, giving himself more of a chance. Diffuser outside, so Plant potentially not looking like a good option for him, as there are 3 players that can cover for Wildcard. And they're starting to surround him pretty well here. There's one on the flank in the Z hallway, and he is the one that will peek out and end the round.
Pat, hearing all those footsteps, you're damn sure that's going to be a free kill. Wildcard doing a good job of taking the fight to Elevate. Regardless of whether they're on the defensive or attacking side, it was very clear that they weren't interested in sitting back and letting Elevate push them into those corners and try and almost suffocate the space that they'd created. So very, very well maneuvered. And with Ethan opening the duel so early on Vast, that buck that has given Wildcard a bit of a nuisance in itself, just with that vertical potential, alleviated a lot of pressure.
Something I've noticed that's a positive for Wildcard tonight as opposed to their performance last night is these crossfire style strats that they have set up. So one they had on Villa was constantly failing for them when they were holding Aviator Games Room. And it was just due to missed timing in terms of like how the refrag or trade was meant to play out. But it's been working out for them much better. And on that round, the player playing in meeting was well covered from yellow, and I think there was even one playing near private, so they had multiple people ready to cover that, and they were picking out good times, pre-firing, even if they didn't secure the kill at first. It just meant that that player in meeting could stay there more comfortably and not actually be lost.
10 seconds to go.
Lost is not a place you want to be.
No.
5 seconds
That's good.
left.
So, once again, Elevate. I am very intrigued to see whether we will continuously see this slower style of droning and almost space prevention, or I should say real estate prevention actually. But Diesel and Co doing a good job of eliminating a lot of these factors.
Imran just placing that ADS without actually seeing exactly where he was. That flash timed really well, but hasn't been able to flush him out at this stage. Yellow stairs, a very critical control point for attacking the CEO side of this bomb site. So if Elevate want to be able to push this, they will have to clear out that position. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, for them to really get some kind of execute happening.
Digital obviously getting even further information. Vast now opening up, making sure that anyone that decides to play from private will be anything but more so public. Holding the line from Vast, obviously doesn't want to let those frag grenades go before they do test the top of that staircase. And it comes, and the timing here still for Emo Rin, nicely done. Not sure whether that was a frag grenade or I believe it was, so they have been able to waste at least a little bit more utility on the side of Elevate.
Yeah, they're really dedicating a lot of time and utility to this. The utility use is fine. Usually you will have to burn a lot of utility to flush that position, but they have not been able to clear Imorin. He takes a shot to the hip, and he's not going to worry about that too much. Those impacts having no damage at all. So Elevate really failing to clear this out. They've wasted almost 2 minutes dedicated to do this. If they can't clear him out, that is a big fail mark on this. And Diddle's actually just going to rappel straight in. A good refrag there. Timed to perfection. Unfortunate not to save Vast, though.
Only a millisecond in it. Eventually, sooner or later, you need to make that decision. You're going to keep that attention across there, or will we move away? And, well, as long as they know what their core purpose is, that is completely fine.
Located by attackers.
Pat just sitting on the inside. Red and God Legion both out on the windows. Diesel will be able to take down Worthy. Where from, we're not entirely sure. They're not going to be able to check to that left side, and Red Bull fall down with no chance of God Legion trading that out. Wildcard are looking tenfold better than last night, Raven.
Much tighter, yeah, and Elevate just, I think there was a missed drone there in CEO. Didn't quite go deep enough past that yellow couch to be able to see that player in CEO. And now it is all up to God Legion.
5 seconds, and you know that he's not going to win this, but there's still some KD on the line. Diffuser nowhere in sight. And Wildcard will just see it out.
Run out of time.
Another round on the board. So far, Wildcard have opened every single round with a duel. Pat, Emorin, Ethan, and Emorin once again. They are definitely winning out on these engagements.
They are, and they're also not just losing players unanswered. A lot of it is being answered. They are trades, refrags. It was a great peek from Diesel. He ended up getting Worthy in the bathroom, and that was a really long angle from meeting. And he would have hit that with the SMG-11. Man is an absolute god with that gun. And stuff like that just wasn't working out for them last night. They weren't hitting shots like that. Potentially the intel or the comms were a bit muddy or just not there. And that seems to be remedied. They're playing much tighter.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
It's great to see that we can make those adaptations that are clear. God Legion out in front. This is definitely something that we have come to know and love about God Legion. His ability as a fragger. So many rounds that I can even think of from the first half of the season. And my memory's not that great, so the small things that I can remember from what is almost 2 months ago now, it's definitely saying something to the ability. The young fragger.
Yeah, definitely up there with the best of the fraggers in ANZ, and quite consistent too. It's not common that you see him really shut down or have a bad game. He has had one, I think there was a series earlier on where, while they still won both maps, he was struggling a little bit, but not to be tonight. So far he's doing quite well. It's just some smaller things for Elevate that are not allowing them to take the control they want. A big thing was the yellow stairs in that previous round, dedicating so much time and utility. And while they did clear it with a trade in the end, it took over 2 minutes to do, which really didn't give them much time to really solidify anything after that, which meant some desperation and some mistakes, and Wildcard capitalized.
You definitely couldn't be happier if you're Emorin in that situation. 2 minutes and a kill, the opening kill. I mean, job's done at that point. Plus a lot of utility, like you're saying, a lot of investment. We can move away from that as we are starting to clear that top floor out with it. Elevate once more, but Wildcard not happy to put any attention there. They are, of course, down in Garage, so a very similar approach from what we saw in the previous round. And once again, they are not shy in droning out 3 players on those drones once again.
Ethan playing tucked into that bathroom. God Legion just missing him cross, but a nice cover from Vast there to catch him before he drops the hatch. So that's one change from last time. Ethan was able to get to that bottom floor. This time he was shut down. So Elevate will have half the round now to make some vertical play, clear out that garage so Digital can get the breaches, which happened last time.
Yep.
They just didn't really have much time to get the execute off. They managed to close the round out based on some really good covering, but it was tight and it was pretty scary. I think they want to be able to make it a bit more comfortable for themselves this time. They're starting to trend towards that with this opening kill.
Fast opening up very similar lines to what we saw in the last attempt, the last winning attempt. Almost identical at this point. Wildcard will surely be aware of that vertical play and be a lot more cautious of it this time. 45 seconds, Raven. They will slowly start to poke and prod at Wildcard's defense.
One thing that they probably also need to think about is, this is it right here, is the smokes from Digital, not Digital, sorry, Diesel, in the security hallway. He's been hitting those perfectly each time, and considering the time right now, it is going to be hard for Digital to be able to get the plant down. Something we saw TBD do last night, it was Mango's. He just ran straight through and went hard towards the bins, which is not possible because of the adaptation Wildcard's made with that mirror. That will be completely visible unless they are able to smoke it off.
10 seconds left.
Timer ticking down. They're going to have to go for this now. Digital coming in behind the car. Is there enough to deny this? It doesn't look like it. They're going to be able to hold this. The C4 comes out. It's not going to connect. Geo finds God Legion, and Pat this time steps up, but Vast is not done yet. Wildcard needs to be careful. Digital dismantling Wildcard down to only 2. Emorin and Geo once again to leave it up. And Digital will just go directly through the wall. Geo with only 1 HP, Raven.
A nice pre-fire from Digital, but Geo trades back. Time ticking away. This is the same trap that happened to Ethan when he was trying to get the retake. Did not leave himself enough time. Trying to bait out the defuse here, and it's well covered from Vast above. A nice execute from Elevate. Well played from them to get that actually down, and the post plant was beautiful.
Those executes have been incredibly crisp. Even when it looks like Wildcard is starting to flip it, Vast has stepped up massively with that vertical potential. Even just that, I'm sure that Wildcard weren't as aggressive as what we might have seen because of the fact that that first round had gone that in a very similar fashion, in fact, just sending it in, making sure that you are covered when you are planting. We will be heading back to lobby press. So far, we've only seen one opening engagement go the way of Elevate. This time it was Ethan who got caught trying to rotate back down the hatch. Not done safely this time, Raven.
No, and those Elevate executes have been quite tidy, and while they're scary and not leaving themselves much time, it seems to have been prepared thoroughly enough where, to an extent, you can almost say they look safe. They've been able to get those plants down in situations where it's so easy to be able to deny that. A placed C4 in the right spot. Pat's missed it both times on that garage defense. But all it takes is that well-placed C4, and Elevate won't really have a good chance to recover to get the plant down. So it's working out well for them. And this is the site they lost in the worst fashion out of the entire half. Wildcard looking very strong on this, and if they can replicate that, they can take the half 4-2, and they would definitely be happy with that.
It did come down to a little bit more of an aggressive look on that defensive side. Wildcard were a little bit more happy to go for those engagements. Buck, of course, in Vast was caught out rappelling on the window, who, again, we have to reiterate, has been quite a big player for Elevate, just a big operator in general. Opening up those deeper lines, it cuts off so much space, so much rotating ability for that defensive side, and it just becomes so awkward. But to see Ethan sitting on the Legion toward yellow stairs, and apart from that, Pat's still pretty happy to try and take a fight out on CO window.
Yeah, really getting aggressive towards those windows. He's going to start to back away. He's been playing quite well. We see on score there, he's 8-2, so been hitting his shots, getting his frags, and not even dying. His survival percentage is quite high, given that we are on round 6. Good to see that he has started to really play for Wildcard, or step up for Wildcard in his debut week.
It could definitely be one of the big tipping points if Geo and Pat can both start to settle into this roster. Sure, we might not see them go for a late run in Season 11, but we've got to think a little bit more of an oversight, more of a third-person bird's-eye view for Wildcard, in the fact that it is a long game now. It is going to be God Legion going for the early peak. Emorin loses out there.
Nice peek to get that engagement. So that is a position that they weren't able to clear out at all, actually, last time they attacked this. And it was also an opening kill. God Legion finding another with a trade coming out, but this is looking much better for Elevate, giving themselves over a minute with the vertical control, besides the yellow stairs, but regardless, that's a much simpler position to flush out for them at this stage.
And Diesel being that maestro taken out. What a big operator. Doesn't really have that ability to just sit and hide anymore for the Plants. Geo as well, up close and personal where Worthy needs to be careful. Look to edge around the corner there, but this could be a pivotal point here. Just so much information that Wildcard are going to be able to gain. And look, with Ethan and Pat on those operators, you could possibly see them absolutely rip Elevate apart if they're not careful. 2 players low as well, Raven.
Yeah, that's a big danger sign for Elevate. And Digital being their designated planter, being that low, is scary. It doesn't take much for them to eventually lose out. Digital is going to bait out a plant, trying to bait the C4 from below. Well played by him. He does bait it out. Has been even out with some frags, but actually Elevate answer back Manic. It means it's a 3 versus 1.
Geo actually might be able to deny this here. If he drops down, he's got the 1v1, just makes it out in time, but no, Geo will catch him. And a 1v3 to close out the first half. The scores are tied, and Wildcard will be kicking themselves.
So close for Elevate on that round. Just some mistakes you could say in the plant phase there. Having the buck potentially being a meat shield for the Habana planting. Not 100% sure. Maybe could have played more passive around the front door and just covered the drop. Either way, nice retake from Geo to secure the round for Wildcard, giving them a 4-2 advantage for the half, which considering their form last night, they would definitely be happy with that to take that.
100%. And at least this gives us something to work with as well. Storylines being storylines. It's very important for us to continue seeing Wildcard just each and every night. They don't have to go leap and bounds, but they need to be improving, and this is exactly what we saw from map 1 to map 2 last night. There was a difference, not a massive difference, but enough. And then from last night to today,
attackers need to locate and defuse
almost a
bombs.
completely different team. And I do apologize, said the score was evened out. In fact, it's 4-2 in favor of Wildcard. Might have been caught up in the moment. Thank you, Raven.
You'll be forgiven. You'll be forgiven. But one thing that's going to be really important for Elevate is, of course, you got to shake it off. You've got to be ready to come in your defense half here. It's only 2 rounds, and that can actually go by really quickly. They can easily make this 4-4, and then it's open again. One thing that's surprising for me is that Red seems to have been having a bit of a struggle tonight. He was actually probably one of the standout, if not the standout player for Elevate in the first half. Playing support roles, but actually being right up there with their frags and having really high cost ratings week in, week out. He hasn't really gotten into the game so far, and I think that's a big area where they're starting to slip down, where requiring that support player to step up, whether it is actually his comms or whether they were relying a lot on his fragging ability. Either way, he hasn't had the same impact he was having in the first half.
A lot of attention out on those.
This looks like a breach rush, Rob.
Think they're going to send it?
I saw Ethan out there. There was potentially 3, maybe 4. They might do. I feel like they're gonna.
It definitely looks like it, Raven. This could be it. In go all 4 members from Wildcard. Elevate caught completely left field. Digital still doesn't realize how far they are. The plant's going to be going down. Emarin takes down Worthy, but Digital somehow manages to catch Pat out. The bomb, the diffuser is down. And the trades are going to go back and forth. Geo will be able to find God Legion coming down. This is looking really good for Wildcard.
It is looking really good for Wildcard, and now with this bomb site, if you get a garage plant, it's so simple to play really good post plant. You can just relax and stay near the stairs, and planting that deep means you can't long arm it safely. You're going to be exposed to that breach. It's been perfectly opened in the middle just for that. So this is going to be really tricky for Elevate to be able to deal with here.
Tricky or impossible. Either way, Wildcard, what a round, what a call. Elevate knew nothing about it.
No one at all really on the garage intel. I think they were potentially expecting something based on their preparations on how Wildcard were going to attack that, and just felt too safe. Never really bothered to check that early intel to catch what exactly Wildcard were doing. As you said, Digital was there still using his bailiff on site, just opening some holes like nothing was happening on the other side at all. So completely unaware where Elevate.
I totally just realized why I was under the impression that Geo was not on Wildcard. It's because Geo was on Elevate literally not even a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting here, like, I honest to God, I was actually bamboozled by that for a second. That's enjoyable. Well, even more enjoyable, we're heading back to basement. There's clearly a flaw that they think that they can correct. And it'll only time will tell whether that was a mistake in the early round or whether Wildcard are now going to throw everything at them.
Yeah, I think it's more comfortable to be able to repeat a bomb site when that's the way you lose it.
Yep.
Because it's not like your strategy was hard counted. I mean, in a way you could say it was, but actually I think it just came down to Elevate being confident that Wildcard weren't going to be rushing, especially there, and they just went on an early intel to actually catch that. So all they have to do is just look in that intel early, see if it might be happening, and then go from there. The only wall denial they have is red on the mute. So, I mean, they could be substituting maybe the Goyo or another player for a Kaid just to require a bit more emphasis of Wildcard to open that. They have the Thatcher, but it takes time, and that's a signal in itself. If an EMP goes off a garage wall, you know it's probably going to open soon.
It's a good indication. Alarm bells start to ring, and this time Wildcard, they haven't set up there early. That's not to say that they won't still go across, but they are going to be going for the roam clear now. Vast across toward admin, looking to try and hold those positions. Also with God Legion being a bit of a nuisance, a bit of a menace as well. So Wildcard need to be cautious if they do decide to approach the roam clear, how they do so, and if they're going to have effective trades. That is probably more important.
Yes, definitely a more thorough approach from Wildcard on this round. Not looking to re-attempt what they did last time, but gotta say, Rob, I do love a good old breach rush. Watching them all go through, and it looks great when it comes off. Like, catching the defense off guard like that, it looks cool and it feels good. And speaking of feeling good, God Legion is feeling damn good because he's just found 2 kills. He's popping off for his team and not looking as good for Wildcard in this round.
Pat just needs to be cautious coming around the corner. He'll actually take the head off of God Legion. The remainder of Elevate pretty much turtling on sight. Red, who's still happy to sit and buy even more time. Ethan and Pat hints in a little bit harder now. You may as well just stay there and buy as much time as possible. Try and find a kill. Looks exactly like what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, at this stage, that's definitely what you want to do, just burn the time. And that's what he is doing to great success, but he will have to drop out of there when they've opened that wall on the north-facing side because he is completely exposed. Well played by him. It's burned a lot of time, and it means Wildcard only has about 50 seconds to try and get an execute. Ethan seems like he can see the tip of Red's toes, maybe, not too sure. Seemed quite aware that's exactly where Red's playing at least. Oh, the timing on that, though. Wildcard going to have to get moving here with this execute. 35 seconds to go. Ether finds 2, so they're now well set up for this.
They can flush on in, but they still need to be careful of these longer lines being held digital. Just looking to try and maneuver around, lock down that site. It's going to be somewhat complicated to do so. The Evil Eye in behind as now Diesel does go deep. Will start to defuse. That's nicely done. They will not be able to deny it. Maybe actually still no. Well, that's absolute chaos. Wow. That, okay. I mean, yeah, we'll take one for the team in that occasion.
Yeah, and that Goyo strat, that definitely looked like a pre-planned thing. Didn't come off. It didn't look like it actually hurt Digital at all. Diesel, I keep mixing up their names, man. It didn't look like it hurt him at all in that plant, so no real denial coming out. Wildcard, let's talk about this most importantly. They're on match point now, Rob, with a 4-round advantage.
Again, a shocking result in comparison to last night, but this is what we expected from Wildcard for so long. This could be a turning point. I'm not going to read too much into it just yet, but without a doubt, a very welcome change from yesterday and from the rest of this season.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to talk to Elevate after this to find out where the struggles are. Is it the fact that they've had Worthy come in and they've still got some teething issues, or maybe Wildcard's just catching them off guard, something about their playstyle is throwing them off, but regardless, Wildcard are playing a much better game tonight. And look, their 2 new recruits, Gio and Pat, are the ones absolutely popping off for them, 10 and 4, 11 and 4 respectively. And you've got to say, that seems like it's starting to actually work out. I mean, they're not going to get those kills unless they're getting the intel. Yeah, it's usually how it works at this level. So things working out for them here, and they've got a really strong scoreline.
It is for sure something to build off. And maybe something to platform either to use as a
5 seconds
platform
left
to step
before
onto
insertion.
bigger and better things. So you can be damn sure that if Wildcard are going to be able to
Attackers are
continue
moving out
this
to
sort of
locate a bomb
a
and
trend, who knows what we'll see toward the latter parts. Or rather, I say the latter parts, but they've got one match left after this, or rather one lineup left. They've still got one match against Elevate after this. However, we do still see them come up against Fnatic next week. Maybe that is really the final boss, if you will.
I mean, yeah, Fnatic is the one everyone's gunning to beat at the moment in ANZ, not just because they're on the top of the ladder, but because of just the fact they're Fnatic.
Yep.
Their stature, their international experience and results. So getting a win against them domestically, regardless, is going to be what everyone is gunning for. Wildcard opting to attack CEO's side, just like Elevate were, in fact, for this defense. And important to note, Elevate have not gone back to Garage. I mean, they tried it 2 rounds in a row. Clearly not working, so they've gone to this top floor.
Red playing in a very similar position from Emorin in the rounds before. If you cast your mind back, Emorin was able to hold out top of stairs for over 2 minutes. Not only that, he actually found the opening kill regardless of it being traded. Job done in that occasion. Red just needs to be cautious here. Here comes the nice grenade from Emorin. And that's a way to kickstart what could be match point.
Yeah, a well-placed nade from him and a better use of utility coming out of Wildcard on that flush means that not only did they use the investment of utility, but they actually got the frag and not a trade at least. So they've got the man advantage coming to this final minute. They've got a lot of control now that Yellow Stairs is clear. They haven't officially taken it, but I don't believe anyone's really going to decide to try and rotate back there considering the control Wildcard have. Ethan repels in to officially take that now, and this is setting themselves up for a really strong chance to get this plant down.
Obviously watching from a deeper line there, Ethan just needs to be careful. 50 seconds left on the clock. You can see multiple players repelling on the outside for Wildcard. Emorin will join that party as well. No, instead we'll just go straight up the stairs. Ethan will delete God Legion as Pat finds Digital. Worthy and Vast. I don't know whether you've got it in you, but you have to give it something.
Going to be very hard for them at this stage. Worthy all up to him in Connector. Not even going to get a chance to try and retake a flawless round to finish it off for Wildcard. A dominant map for them in the end, Rob, and a stark contrast to their match against TBD.
That is for sure. 3 rounds straight on their attacking side to close it out. 7-2.
Oh,
Nice.
it's actually the first time I've been able to see the Elite animation, and in a Pro League match at that. Pretty nice.
That was a very spicy matchup from Wildcard's perspective. You've got to say that. I believe it was God Legion in the end there with 10 kills for Elevate, and still not enough. Still not enough to give them any more than the 2 rounds they were able to grab. Is that a fair reflection as to how that game went?
I think